So what's the real connection between your personal freedom and the economy? It's a huge question, and it's right at the heart of Milton and Rose Friedman's landmark book, Free to Choose. Today, we're going to break down their powerful argument that a free market isn't just about money, it's the essential foundation for a free society.
And what's really interesting is that this didn't even start as a book. Believe it or not, it actually came from a popular TV series way back in 1980. The Friedmans wanted to take these massive ideas about economics and liberty and make them accessible to everybody. But they believed that the written word, a book, had a special power to really change how people think, maybe even more than television could.
The Friedmans kicked things off with this really powerful warning from Justice Louis Brandeis, and honestly, this quote is the key to their entire argument. The idea that the biggest threats to our freedom don't come from bad people trying to do harm. Nope. They come from well-meaning people with good intentions who just don't see the unintended consequences of their actions.
So what was the original blueprint for America's success? According to the Friedmans, you can trace the whole thing back to one single remarkable year. And that year, of course, was 1776. The Friedmans argue that two revolutionary documents published then created the twin pillars for the political and economic success that would come to define the United States. And here are those two pillars. On one side, you've got Adam Smith's vision for economic freedom. This idea of a market where people cooperating voluntarily, just looking out for themselves, actually creates prosperity for everyone. And on the other side, you have Thomas Jefferson's vision for political freedom, a nation built on the radical idea that every single person has the right to chase their own dreams. Let's dig into Smith's most famous concept for a second, the invisible hand. He argued that when you let people freely pursue their own interests, they're guided by this invisible hand to help society as a whole, totally by accident. And get this, he thought this process was way more effective at creating social good than when people actually try to do things for the public good on purpose.
So what happens when you combine these two powerful ideas, economic freedom and political freedom? The Friedmans say they lit a fire, sparking a period of growth and prosperity that the world had never seen before, especially in the US.
But why America specifically? Well, the Friedmans point to a pretty unique set of circumstances. Unlike Europe, which was kind of stuck with its old, rigid class structures and overbearing governments, America was a clean slate. It was this fertile ground for innovation, energy, and ambition, a place where pretty much anyone with a good idea and a strong work ethic could make it. And for the Friedmans, if you want to see the most powerful proof of this whole principle in action, you don't have to look any further than agriculture. They say if you want to see the power of freedom, just look at the American farm.
I mean, the change is just staggering. Think about it. When the U.S. was founded, it took almost everybody, like 19 out of every 20 workers, just to grow enough food for the country. Today, it's less than 1 out of 20. For the Friedmans, this agricultural miracle is undeniable proof that real progress comes from private individuals and market freedom, not from some grand plan cooked up by the government.
But here's the great irony. This system was so incredibly successful that people started to take it for granted. They began to forget why it worked in the first place, and they lost sight of the dangers that Smith and Jefferson had warned about.
Now, this didn't happen overnight. Through the 19th century, most people saw the government as an umpire. Its job was just to enforce the rules. But in the early 1900s, that started to change. And then the Great Depression hit, and that just threw gasoline on the fire. Suddenly, government wasn't seen as an umpire anymore. It was expected to be a parent, responsible for taking care of its citizens.
And the difference between these two roles is huge. Jefferson's umpire government was meant to be small and frugal. Its main job was just to stop people from hurting each other and then get out of the way. The new parent view is completely different. It's a government that actively steps into the economy, taking from some people to help others, and regulating how we all live and work, all in the name of social goals.
So the Friedmans come up with this brilliant twist on Adam Smith's idea. They call it the political invisible hand, and it kind of works in reverse. The idea is that an official or a politician might truly intend to serve the public interest with a new law or regulation, but they are led by an invisible hand to accidentally promote private interests, special interests that benefit from the rule, which was never their goal at all.
So this whole historical shift brings us right to the core dilemma of the book and the reason for its title. We, as a society, now face a fundamental choice between two very different paths forward.
And according to the Friedmans, the stakes could not be higher. Their core warning is that as government gets bigger and bigger, it doesn't just spend more money. It starts to eat away at the prosperity and the individual freedom that made the country successful to begin with. And that's the question they leave us with. See, the title isn't just a catchy phrase, it's a direct challenge. They're arguing that we're not at the point of no return. Not yet. We can still decide which direction we want to go.
And the two possible futures are laid out pretty clearly. Path number one is to keep speeding down what the economist F.A. Hayek famously called the road to serfdom, a future of more government control and less individual choice. Path number two is what the Friedmans call a rebirth of freedom. That means hitting the brakes, setting real limits on government, and choosing to rely more on people and voluntary cooperation to solve problems.
Now keep in mind, the Friedmans wrote this over 4 decades ago, but their central question feels more relevant today than ever before. When we look at the world around us now, we have to ask, which path are we on? And maybe more importantly, is it the one we truly want to choose?